since I began wandering these gorgeous landscapes, and perhaps that's the case for some of you as well, many of you, I would guess. And so today I would like to take a walk with you down memory lane, a nostalgic wander, starting from where it all began way back then. This unassuming little cave in the shadow of Helgen Keep. This is where I began my adventure in Skyrim all those years ago. And perhaps it was the same for you as well. Many things have changed in the intervening decade, but some things have stayed the same. And I thought it would be nice to revisit the old roads, wander the path from here down to Riverwood, just as we did all those years ago. So, let's wander. It's the early morning. The sun is just starting to touch the tips of the trees, rising over the throat of the world at our backs and illuminating this alpine valley with a golden light. Isn't it magnificent? And in the distance there, you can make out the characteristic ribcage-like ruins of Bleak Falls Barrow on the side of the mountain. An iconic view here in Skyrim. Isn't it gorgeous as the sun-dappled shadows slowly start to give way to the golden light of morning? There's a chill in the air before dawn, but as the sun appears over the horizon, the air starts to warm. The alpine fragrances begin to mingle in the air. You can just see the sun peeking up over the shoulder of the great mountain, shining down on a new day in Skyrim, as it has done every day for the last 10 years and long, long, long before that as well. Gorgeous mountain flowers dot the landscape up here, gently waving in the wind. I must admit, it's a bit lusher here than I remember all those years ago. I seem to think there's a bit more grass, and the trees seem a bit taller, but I suppose that's what happens over the course of a decade, especially if the path is not often tread upon. Things have a tendency to overgrow with time. Here's something that did not survive the test of time, a great stump belonging to a once glorious tree, if its size is any indication. In fact, here is at least part of the rest of that tree. But, you know, there's something beautiful about a fallen tree, draped in ivy, lichen, mosses, providing nutrients and a place for new young sprouts to grow. I suppose that's the fate of all trees, eventually. Well, the sun is definitely up now, low in the sky still, but shining brilliantly through the foliage. I love the way it looks when the sun shafts down through the leaves and the trees. This gorgeous outpouring of golden light. There, Bleak Falls Barrow, looking skeletal and imposing as ever, but beautiful too in its own bleak way. Wreathed in clouds, mysterious, shrouded, intriguing, just begging to be explored. Well, I suppose it's no wonder that this particular path is not well trodden. It's marked by a very simple stone structure, but not much else to mark its presence. The main road here is the one that most would take to Helgen, up that way, but we're going to head the opposite direction. Look at the gorgeous sun-dappled understory. There's something very peaceful about the forest in the early morning. Something very soft and still. Look at this. Not still at all. This is a gorgeous butterfly, but it seems to be intent on flitting about. Maybe it'll settle down there. And as if we needed confirmation, Helgen back that way, Riverwood this way, and our butterfly friend is gracing us with its presence once more, like it's pointing the way, guiding us to Riverwood. It looks like it's going to be a lovely day. The thistles are so brilliant up here in the mountains, alongside, of course, the mountain flowers, which exist in a variety of colors. But this one here seems to be the most common. I love the sound of the wind gently sighing in the leaves. It's a very soothing sound for me. very picturesque. Oh, there we are. The sun is well and truly up now. A gorgeous day indeed. Bright blue sky, shining sun. A perfect day for a nostalgic wander, wouldn't you say? A nostalgic wander to Riverwood. Riverwood is a small place, of course, merely a village, barely a village, and yet it is the first place that many travelers encounter when entering Skyrim. It's a charming little place. If you've never been there, you'll see what I mean, although I suspect you've been there before. I have a sneaking suspicion. One cannot miss, however, on their way to Riverwood, this locale, one of my favorite spots in all of Skyrim. The standing stones. These are not the only such ancient stones in Skyrim. In fact, there are many scattered across the land, but these are three of the most iconic. This one here representing the thief and its constellation in Aetherius. To its right, the standing stone representing the mage, said to give magical powers to those who seek it out, looking to improve their spell casting abilities. And of course, we mustn't forget the warrior, perhaps the mightiest stone of all, said to favor those looking to increase their strength in combat. The stones have stood here for, I don't know, anyone knows, but probably millennia. There's an ancient magic about them, no doubt. Let's head down to the lakeside here. Lake Ilinalta is another one of my favorite places in Skyrim, and it makes for a very picturesque and relaxing locale. Maybe we can just dip our toes into the water here. Ooh, icy cold, pure, clear, and frigid. I can feel it through my boots. But it is beautiful, isn't it? You can breathe deep and just smell the purity of the mountain air up here. It's a special place. An old boat here, looking weathered but sturdy. It must belong to this individual here who's picked an incredible spot for a campsite. She looks like she's just maybe enjoying some breakfast she's picked a lovely morning to camp here. Oh, maybe she's been here for more than the morning. She probably has been hunting and fishing in these parts for years, honestly. Many make their lives, their livings, doing so. Skyrim's natural bounty makes it an obvious, if difficult, way to make a living. But I do envy those sorts, those who live out here in the wilderness, live off the land. There's a certain romanticism to that. Being able to enjoy the beauty of nature here in Skyrim every day. Wake with the sunrise. Breathe that sweet air. But, of course, city life has its charms as well. Or village life, I suppose, in the case of Riverwood, so we might as well continue on our way down the path. This is the source of the great White River, a powerful torrent that winds its way from here at Lake Ilinalta all the way north and then east across Skyrim to emerge into the Sea of Ghosts near Whiterun. It's perhaps the greatest river in all of Skyrim. The River Karth is perhaps its only equal. I love the sound of the flowing water. Isn't this pretty here? The mountain flowers just perched on this cliffside over the river canyon. They probably like it here because they get lots of water from the spray of the waterfall. A lovely spot. And some more. They must love to grow here. It is a serene morning here in Skyrim, and the roads are surprisingly quite vacant. It's just you and me out on a wander this morning. I suppose others might be busy with their daily chores or still just getting up, having a hearty breakfast. We have the freedom to wander without having to worry about such obligations, which is, I must admit, quite indulgent, but very nice. I'm glad that we get to do this. I think it's good for the soul. But even if we can't do this all the time, every once in a while makes a big difference. And here we have, I was saying, different colors clusters of mountain flowers, these red ones, brilliant and beautiful, once again growing near where they get the spray, the mist off the waterfalls, and look at all the fish jumping, running up the river, throwing themselves up the waterfalls so that they might finally make it up to Lake Ilinalta, the still waters of the lake. You hear that? Well, how could you not? Some wolves have joined us on our wander this morning. Now the average traveler would have to worry about wolves and other wild animals on their wanders, but not us. Now the wolves don't know that we're here. And I prefer to keep it that way. I've always wondered if the wolves of Skyrim pass around some kind of respiratory illness. They certainly sound like they're breathing very heavily a lot of the time. Maybe that's just how they breathe. I don't know. Yes, as nice as it is to wander, as seemingly romantic as it would be to be a hunter or a fisher person out here in the wilderness, there's definitely an appeal to going home at the end of the day to a warm hearth, a hearty meal, a cozy bed. So I can't fault the citizens of Riverwood for that. What I do wonder, though, is how they managed to sleep at night in the shadow of Bleak Falls Barrow. I do think that it would be a little bit intimidating. But I suppose it must be safe enough. Just listen to the sound of the rushing water and the characteristic hum of that Nern root on the far riverbank. That's a sound that I will never forget. It must be very handy for alchemists as well, out collecting Nern root for their concoctions, their potions, and such. One of the few plants in Tamriel that you can locate by sound. And there you can see just down the path the welcoming walls of Riverwood, nestled underneath the throat of the world here. It's a special spot, you know. It's a cozy spot. It's a nostalgic spot for me. It reminds me of my first days here in Skyrim. I was so naive and bright-eyed back then. So much I hadn't seen, so much yet to discover. And in case we needed it, another road sign, drifting back that way, well past where we started. Helgen as well, it says down there, and of course Riverwood, and many more locales this way into the heart of the province. Like I said, Riverwood is in some ways the gateway to Skyrim for many. but he seems like a very good boy indeed. And then we have the Riverwood trader, a humble mercantile shop. Let's head on inside. I like it in here. I find it really cozy in the Riverwood Trader. They are quite humble. They sell some basic sorts of weapons and apparel. Got some arrows and a iron mace, a steel blade. Good strong steel, no doubt, but nothing fancy. Perhaps from Alvor. They do have a few more interesting items on the top shelf here. Some glowing, swirling potions. I wonder where Lucan obtained those. And an absolutely absurd amount of cheese. 3 big old cheese wheels and 3 Idar cheese wheels to match. Potatoes down there and a cabbage, of course. And right here in front of Lucan is a conspicuous empty spot where once upon a time a golden dragon claw sat. I wonder what became of that. Hopefully he didn't lose it. It would be quite a costly thing to lose. Oh, I like the crackling fire though, and the bubbling pot of stew. It smells so good. And then we have the beautiful Camilla Valerius, looking a little upset about something. Maybe it's that awkward love triangle that's beginning to develop with Faendal, Sven, and herself. Hard to say, but gossip does get around. Why don't we go take a look at the upstairs? See if it's as cozy as the downstairs. Oh, cozier, I dare say. A lovely looking meal set out on the table here. Some thick slices of aged cheese. Some crusty bread with a dusting of flour on it. Doesn't that bread look delicious? It's making me hungry just looking at it. Some bottles of inexpensive but looks like good wine nonetheless. A lovely little meal. Over here we've got some light reading material. It looks like the Valeriuses favor the songs of the return. We've got a few volumes of it here, 7 and 19 I see at least. And another one over here. It must be favorite reading material of these siblings. Their beds look a little uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie, not as cozy as I would have hoped, but looks can be deceiving, you know. Sometimes it doesn't look especially comfy, but it's not so bad when you're all snuggled up and warm in it. Looks like we've got a couple of pieces of salmon here on the table as well. No doubt fresh caught from the White River. We saw them jumping up in the rapids. Alright, enough poking around. Let's head back outside. Back out into the bright light of the day. You can hear Stump barking there and Alvor hammering away at his smithing table. classic sounds of Riverwood. Yes, such a good dog. Oh, what a good boy. I just want to reach out and pet him. But we will carry on. Oh, pardon me.
Good dog.
I appreciate that these kids are constantly letting Stump know that he's a good dog. He deserves it. Riverwood, such an idyllic, picturesque little village. It's somewhere I could imagine being very comfortable, living out my days in peace. But, of course, there's so much more to see across the land of Skyrim. We can always come back for a visit. Perhaps we could stay at the Sleeping Giant. Did I just hear Embry call Stump a stupid dog? Embry is the local drunk. There he is, the miserable man himself. I do hope that he can mend his ways, perhaps make amends with Stump. Don't listen to him, Stump. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's right, you're a good boy.
Good dog.
Yes, good dog. That's right. That's right. You let that good boy know that he's a good boy. Well, with that, I think it's time that we leave Riverwood behind, as cozy and nostalgic as it is. All of Skyrim lies ahead of us. When I first arrived here, this beautiful province, I spent a few days here in Riverwood helping many of these individuals with their problems, their challenges, before eventually moving on to, what was that? Parts unknown. A gorgeous little spot. Listen to the running water. Isn't that nice? Flowing under the bridge here and north, out of the mountains, down into the Whiterun plains. The Whiterun plains, so named after Whiterun, the urban center that sits atop its, well, I was going to say great mount, but it's really not that great. It's fairly small as mountains go here in Skyrim, but it does give it a commanding view of the Whiterun tundra. Another road sign, Riverwood behind us now. All sorts of places lie ahead, but I think we're going to take a little detour. I think we're going to take a little detour up this way. This is the ancient path up the mountain to Bleak Falls Barrow. These cobbles have seen many feet over centuries, and a decade ago, when I first arrived here, I climbed this path and entered Bleak Falls Barrow, dealt with the great evil within, and returned to Lucan Valerius, his golden dragon claw, which once again I hope he has not lost again. But we're not going to head all the way up today. We're just taking a little wander off the main path. as I said, I don't think that's where we're going to go today. It is awfully chilly up there anyway. It's nicer to stay down here, and besides there's a wolf that way it seems, so let's head over here. Leave the wolf to its business. And we can just alley-oop, there we go. Up here. Yes. We'll stay away from the snow for now. As pretty as the snow can be, it's nice to stay down here where there's a gentle breeze and warm sunlight. The throat of the world is gorgeous as ever, cloaked in clouds. Somewhere up there are the graybeards, holed up in their ancient monastery. And there it is, in the distance, Dragon's Reach, the mighty palace atop Whiterun. An iconic sight, one that always stirs my adventurer's heart. Reminds me of the time I first saw it so long ago. And the city of Whiterun spread out below it. Whiterun, of course, has its charms as well, just as Riverwood does. It is another very picturesque locale. Beautiful view from up here. Way up there, like I said. In fact, you can just glimpse it way up. The graybeards hold their vigil in their ancient monastery above the world, unconcerned with the trials and tribulations of those below, for the most part. Every once in a while, a very long while, they do deign to make themselves known. Well, my friends, I do believe that it's time to end our wander for today. I absolutely loved this little wander down memory lane, literally and figuratively. This nostalgic walk from where I first began my adventure here, through Riverwood and out here to overlook the Whiterun tundra. And I hope you enjoyed this wander as well. Maybe it brought back some good memories. It certainly did for me. It's hard to believe that it's been a decade, and yet here we are. Like I said, many things have changed, but some things stay the same. And one thing that I can promise you will stay the same is that I appreciate you so much. And I look very forward to wandering with you again next time.